This presentation covers the counseling interview, conducting the interview, and responding in Chapter 12 of the Interviewing Practices and Principles. Responding in this setting is mostly like in a interview or interviewee counseling session, or maybe a coaching session in a job or advising session in a school. This requires that the interviewer responds appropriately to the interviewee as to win over the interviewee's trust. The interviewer is supposed to focus on the interviewee because the interviewee is going to probably be doing most of the talking, and the interviewer will be doing most of the listening. So the interviewer needs to be very attentive to the nonverbal cues and verbal cues. Pay attention to the body language and the way that they're moving to see what kind of mood or reaction that they're having to the session. Verbal cues also indicates how they're feeling at that time about what they're talking about and how far they really want to talk about it, or if there might be something else that they have in their mind that they're just not saying out loud. Highly non-directive reactions and responses. It encourages the interviewees to continue commenting, analyzing ideas, solutions, and be self-reliant. The interviewer doesn't really offer any information or assistance to coach the interviewee to keep going. They encourage the interviewee to continue commenting by such verbal cues like yes, okay, I see. Just comments like that to let the interviewee know that the interviewer is paying attention and wants you to keep going and to keep building on what you're talking about. Whenever you begin, whenever you stop, they let you know that they're listening. The interviewer needs to analyze what the interviewee is talking about and what they're thinking in their mind and think of solutions, but you want the interviewee to come up with to analyze their own ideas by talking to you and maybe thinking it through out loud, so the interviewee comes up with their own solutions. And it teaches them to be self-reliant. Although you are there to listen and to help them, you're also helping them to be able to do the problem solving and think of solutions on their own, so they're self-reliant. Try to remain silent as much as possible to encourage the interviewee to keep talking and to build on what they're thinking and what they're wanting to say and what their end result should be. Nonverbal cues are very important in this part of the interview because you need to watch the interviewee to see how they're feeling and how they're reacting to what they're saying and what they're analyzing themselves. You may return a response to keep them going, but this should be short and brief, as so the interviewee keeps talking and not the reviewer. But do not lead to a solution or an idea to the interviewee. You want them to be self-reliant again, so that they can think of these solutions and come up with it on their own, even though you, like I said, you are there to help them and assist them into coming to an end result. Non-directive reactions and responses, they inform and encourage with no imposition of either intended. So you may respond with explanations, but you want to avoid cliches. Some of the examples it gives in the book, the interviewee says, "What are my options?" And the interviewer says, "The university offers you 2 options at this point of the semester. You may take my course, pass, fail, so you need to earn a C grade, or you can withdraw from the course by mid-semester with a passing grade." So this gives them options, but without giving them solutions and pushing them toward an answer themselves. Cliches is something like, the book gives an example of every cloud has a silver lining. We all have to go sometime. It's always darkest before the dawn. It could have been worse. No pain, no gain. People don't really want to hear that. They don't want to hear those cliches. It often discourages interviewees to keep going or to offer any more information. Do not use we phrases such as "how are we doing today?" And what are we going to do? Because really it's about the interviewee, so it's about them. So you should say, how are you doing today? How do you feel about this? And be understanding. Relate to your interviewee to let them know that you're understanding what they're saying, you're listening, and you're evaluating what their problem is, and you're going to help them with their solution in the end. Directive reactions and responses. They go beyond encouragement and information to mild advice and evaluations or judgments. One of the examples that it gives in the book is, I'm terrible at math and don't think I can handle the required course in quantitative research methods. And the interviewer says, I understand your concern, but why don't you try the 200 level first and see how it goes? So you're encouraging and giving mild advice or options to what they can do and helping them along. You're evaluating their problem and helping them with the solution. Be cautious when doing this, because whenever you do this, you can lead to maybe a solution they don't want, or you can also lead into something that may cause problems throughout the interview. You may challenge an interviewee. You may challenge their actions, ideas, or judgments. Such as one of the examples that it gives in the book. It says, my supervisor is talking about scheduling me to work on weekends, and that would keep me from visiting my grandmother who raised me. And the interviewer says, why don't you talk to her about it? So you're offering a solution, and you're challenging them to react on that solution and find a way to make everybody happy. This approach should only be used if the non-directive approaches do not work. So instead of letting them figure it out on their own, they're really looking for kind of like a push in the right direction, or they're looking for some more advice than you're offering up because you're not giving any in non-directive. So in a directive reaction, they're wanting you to give them some sort of direction on where they need to go and what they should do and what maybe you think their options would be. A highly directive reaction and response. This is a little bit more direct. Like it says, a direct approach. It's a little bit more of a pushing for the interviewee. It's for special circumstances, and it offers suggestions and mild advice, and they're replaced with, instead of offering suggestions and mild advice, they're replaced with ultimatums and strong advice. One of the examples it gives in the book, it says, I don't think I can stop drinking. Maybe cut back a bit, but not go cold turkey. And the interviewer says, then how do you expect to get your children back? The interviewee says, I can be a good mother and drink a bit less. And the interviewer says, you've proven several times that you cannot do both. Your only option is to join an AA group and stop drinking. Otherwise, you'll never get your children back. So this is telling them that if you don't stop what you're doing and change the way that you're doing these things, you're not going to get what you want in the end. So it offers that ultimatum, you have to stop doing this, or you can't get, if you do keep doing it, you're not going to get your kids back. If you stop doing it, you're going to get your kids back. So it's strong advice or ultimatum. It's appropriate for behavioral problems because you have to put it down in black and white for behavioral problems. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. If you don't do this, this is what else could be happening. And it's not in an instance that you should be overly dramatic with them or get frustrated or yell at them or anything like that. It's not like that. It's in a helping manner. The solution must ultimately come from the interviewee. You can offer options and things that they should be doing or can do to make it better, or if this happens, then this happens. You're giving them choices, but they ultimately have to come up with a solution on their own. Then this usually happens after you've established a relationship with your interviewee before you offer them an ultimatum, because you also have to be somebody that they feel comfortable talking with and talking to and getting advice from. You have to be honest, but you have to be tactful. I know sometimes it's hard to be honest and to be tactful at the same time, but you must maintain the relationship. So be honest, but in a sincere and caring manner. And do not interrupt the interviewee when they're talking. Let them get everything out that they want to get out, and so they can tell you what's going on with them and what their thoughts are and what they're wanting to do. That way they can also, like it says throughout the whole thing, so they can solve the problems for themselves. You're just there to aid them. And listen empathetically. You need to relate to the person that you're talking to or listening to. If you just listen to them and you don't show any reaction or emotion, they're going to wonder what you're thinking. So whenever you're listening, make sure that you're making the eye contact with them, as well as nodding your head. Don't do any shoulder shrugs, roll your eyes, sit back in your chair. You want to stay attentive to that person that you're talking to, so that you can help them solve the problems that they're needing to solve. You want to build a good relationship with your interviewee. Interviewees who receive positive feedback are more likely to comply, and they're more likely to show up to their appointments and come back more often, and sometimes even show up earlier than they need to. Interviewers' responses make a significant difference because it shows that you're paying attention, you're listening, and you're relating, and then you're also, in your mind, helping to put together a solution or putting together scenarios for them to work out their own problems to come up with the final solution. And then interviewees are more likely to implement ideas whenever you encourage them and you help them along the way. And they're also will be more willing to give recommendations to other people, as well as report a good report for you as the interviewer. Because as an interviewer, you're either going to be a counselor in some way, advisor in a setting, and you're going to have someone that you report to above you. And whenever the interviewees can report that you are doing a good job and you're helping them, it just helps them do their job so much better. And some of the key terms in this section of the book is directive reactions. It's when an interviewer reacts to a client with specific evaluations and advice. Highly directive reaction is when an interviewer offers ultimatums and strong advice. A highly non-directive reaction is when an interviewer offers no information, assistance, or evaluation, but encourages the interviewee to communicate, analyze, and be self-reliant. Non-directive reactions are when an interviewer reacts to a client without giving advice or specific direction. And that's all for this presentation. Thank you very much.